Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Well, we found out that 2 out of 10 taxi drivers in Nome, Alaska have said that Daily Dose Radio is fresh and delicious. You know, they say personal testimony is the best advertisement, so we got some personal testimony there from those cabbies, and we're so appreciative of their fine work there in Nome, Alaska. Well, today we're going to look at Psalm 131, and this is the second half of verse 2, although I'll put on the screen all of verse 2 so that you can read it as I read it. But the second half, the first half was, I've behaved myself and quieted myself. Now we're going to see what he means, because he uses the little word as here. This is our clue, our signal for a similitude, for a metaphor, as a child, and we're going to talk about that as we go on in the lesson today. So we've been studying Psalm 131. It's only 3 verses long. This is a part of the Ascent Psalms. This is the 12th step in the Ascent Psalms. And as we go up the steps, or as we make our way into Jerusalem, the psalmist is preparing his heart, because now he's humbling himself before the Lord. He says, I've not exalted myself, I've not lifted up my eyes, I've not run after great things. These are all statements that a humble man would make. And then he uses in the beginning of verse 2, the adversative. He says, rather, this is what I have done. And then he says, I've behaved and quieted myself. So, which is exactly the opposite of, running after things too great, too wonderful for me, for exalting my heart, lifting up my eyes. Here, the psalmist just says, I've done nothing, none of that. I've done exactly the opposite, which is exactly what the church needs today. We need to quiet and still ourselves. All right, well, let me read verse 2. I'm going to read the whole verse, and we'll make comment about the second half today. He says, surely I have behaved and quieted myself as a child that is weaned of his mother. My soul is even as a weaned child. Okay, that's verse 2. So yesterday we talked about behaved myself, quieted myself. My translation has composed and stilled. But now we see what it's like. We get the word picture here. The word picture is a weaned child. So imagine a baby that is at its mother's breast, and it's done feeding, and it's starting to fall off to sleep. There's nothing quite as still and satisfied as that little child represents. That child is as satisfied as anyone, because he's being held by his mother. He's warm. He is fed. There may be a little dribble of milk on his cheek as he starts to fall off to sleep. His lip might be quivering just a little bit because of all the exercise of nursing that he's gone through. But he or she is absolutely in heaven at that moment. Well, that's the idea. And notice that the psalmist says it twice. As a child that is weaned. My soul is even as a child that is weaned. So again, this is soulish. He's talking about the nature of his soul. He started out that way. My heart is not exalted. Now he says, my soul is like a weaned child within me. So the very opposite of where he began, I'm not exalted. Now he tells us what he is. I'm like a weaned child. I'm satisfied. I'm at peace. I'm at rest. I'm comforted. I am protected. I am safe, because I'm resting on the one who has given himself for me. Jesus Christ paid the ransom for all. And so we rest on him. That's exactly the psalmist's story. As a weaned child, so my soul is even as a weaned child. Well, I hope that you will join me again tomorrow, and we're going to look at verse 3, and we're going to read the whole verse this time. So join me tomorrow as we look at verse 3 here on Daily Dose Radio.